What's up, dude?
What's up, dude? Isn't she great? She's so on top of shit. She's
Oh my
got this
God,
all set up.
she is the literal best. I was just raving to her about her while we were sitting here in her living room. I mean, she is she is doing everything, man, and everything that I didn't know that she was already so good and capable of doing. My goodness.
Right? Yeah, we were talking about it the other day. Producing is it's such an enigma, right? Because there's so many different versions of it. There's so much that you can be trying to accomplish and you're like, okay, so I'm a producer. That means nothing in helping me understand what I'm supposed to fucking do. So now what do I do? But you find that shit out quick when you're doing all of it.
Oh, absolutely. I've been blown away by Kira. She's a rock star, man.
Well, let's talk about you, dude. I'm excited to have you on the show finally. As I told the boys so far, it doesn't count as your main episode. We'll do a main episode where it's just me and you, and we're talking about everything Nienaber.
That's really why I decided to come on. I was like, I just gotta put in my due diligence here, make sure Rob knows that I'm on deck.
Well, yeah, 100%. And also, it's like once you have, one half of a duo, I've had Beth on the show. Now I feel deeply incomplete, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
We will. We shall.
So, Bent, man, let's talk Bent. Let's get into that world. And then I want to talk emojis with you, dude.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, isn't it?
Right? Let's start with Bent. You were involved in the first one in 2015, right? You were one of the carryovers from the first production.
Yeah, yeah. So I did it actually when I was a junior, and it was their senior Keys to the Kingdom show. And so yeah, I had such a great time on it last time. I loved that Emma was willing to give me a pre look forward into Keys to the Kingdom. I think that was really valuable for me at the time. And but like everyone else, I completely fell in love with this story. I mean, it's incredible. It's heart wrenching. It's so humanizing. I mean, there's not a lot that you can't love about it.
Right. What was the work that you did on the first one, and then what are you doing for this?
Well, so I'm essentially doing the same thing for both now. So the work that I did on the first one was I came in, I helped them sort of piece the transitions and some of the like arc of the story together more or less, and so helps them make those moments where like this show just has a ton of furniture going one direction and then different things come in the other direction, not to make those dead spaces essentially.
What is it about? Because that's a huge thing that Gerald would talk about. Matt Bullock was really big on that, and I'm a big advocate of don't leave me sitting in the dark, right? I don't want to sit in the dark for a minute and a half while you change the fucking set around and play some sad song for me. Like, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to think about a TV show that it reminds me of. I'm going to think about another play. I'm going to, like, don't give me any time where you're not telling me the story in one way or another. And I remember sitting, I don't even remember what it was. It wasn't Bent, of course, but Matt Bullock and I were sitting next to each other in RJR watching something, and the lights are about to come down. It's clearly the end of the scene, and it's like starting to come down, and Matt leans over to me and he goes, bet you they leave us sitting in the fucking dark, man. I bet we're going to sit in the fucking dark for like 60 seconds. You watch, man. We'll see. And he was totally right. And then,
Of
like,
course.
and he's giving you that Matt Bullock look of, like, with his arm. Yeah, am I? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And so I took away from school, like, really hardcore, like, don't leave them sitting in the dark. Don't give them a moment to, like, go somewhere else in their head. Even if they're wherever they are in their head for the play, like, just don't let it depart from that and keep it seamless. And it sounds like you took that lesson to heart seriously, and that's a big part of how you make stuff now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I honestly I don't think I can make anything that doesn't do that now, or at least attempt to. I mean, hopefully I do
Right.
it. I mean, some sure I'm off at times too, but like, yeah, it's so integral to me, and it's funny because whenever I go to see a show like that, it's almost like I blink and then it's curtain call. I mean,
Yeah.
it goes by in a flash, but you get such a good whole feeling of a story. It doesn't feel like scenes or segments anymore. It feels like one nice full, I guess, piece.
Right. And it's interesting, right? Because with plays, I feel like we're more patient with it. In musicals, you're like not allowed to do it. Like musicals better fucking flow from one song to the next scene to the next thing. And it's like they go out and they come in and, you've got to keep it tight. But with a play, it's almost like we allow this like French noir kind of storytelling where we're like, we'll just take some time and listen to some overture and let them move things around. But I love adapting that because it does keep the pacing. And even with a story like Bent, which, you know, anytime you're telling a story about the Holocaust, right, it doesn't hurt to give your audience the sense of like desperation and languishing in the like, oh my God, how is this going to go? It's moving, but you still got to keep it tight if you want to keep their attention, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's been, I guess, a big part of what I've been doing with this show both times now is helping us maintain the world as best we can, helping us really try to feel some of the intricacies, the subtleties of what it's like to be in that time, living in that place. I mean, obviously it's not something that I've experienced, so a lot of it is just pulling research and trying to, I was looking at weird noir dance from Germany in 1938 or whatever this morning, like I just try to find stuff that feels authentic.
How did you get tapped to be that guy? I mean, you're not in their class, and so many of the people who work on the show, even now, the new one, were in that same 2015 class. So, like, was it Emma, and what made her go to, you know what? Let's bring Ethan in. Like, why you? There, lots of people at school.
Well, I think a lot of it was during school. I think subconsciously I knew I was gonna be a director, and for whatever reason I was really resistant to that. So everything I made like during intensive arts, everything that I had a moment of spare time to help create, I was always directing in some kind of capacity, and usually that was through like stuff that came out of Bob's class, movement, masks. I mean, it was such a simple, pure form of storytelling that that's what I wanted to get into, and that's what felt like the easy door into it. Something that was less scary, less sort of like, oh, I'm jumping ship on acting and performing altogether. I wasn't ready to rip any kind of band-aid like that in college,
Right.
especially joining the acting track and thinking for forever that that was that way or the highway for me.
Do you still feel some of that? Because I have like four questions on what you just said, but the first one that I came into my mind was, and the reason is because it has been a theme as I've talked to people just on this show, which is like, do you still have like I apologize, but for lack of a better term, an insecurity about like, I'm supposed to be doing this, or my training was in this, and this is my track, and this is my thing? Or have you kind of evolved to be like, I do a lot of shit, and sometimes I'm doing this role, sometimes I'm wearing this hat? Where are you at with that? Because I know that's the tough part as I talk to so many people with conservatory training, because they're like, no, I spent like $150,000 to be a fucking actor. So here I am not acting, I'm failing. Like that can weigh big on people. Where are you at with that?
That was really hard for me to start, I would say. I mean, coming out of school, still doing showcase as an actor, it was a brutal, I would say, like for first year or so. I really had this sort of sense of loss and abandonment of a piece of myself at first. But what was actually really comforting for me, and this might sound a little bizarre, but every time I was in a performance situation after school and once I moved here, I was always uncomfortable. I was always like physically uncomfortable. I was always
Interesting.
like sweating and just like, I don't know if it was anxiety or what, but I was always not really like in my skin anymore. It didn't feel like.
What kind of performances are we talking? Are you doing friends plays, a little
Yeah,
stuff, or like what, just act, but basic acting, they give you a script, you're up there doing the lines.
right. Yeah. Readings or a scene for someone's thing here. I
Sure.
mean, nothing really large or professional or serious overall.
Right.
But I think I only happened like 3 or 4 times in that first year of being out of school because I'd already kind of been like, yeah, I don't think I'm doing this much anymore. Like I
Hmm.
was really coming around to that. And those few experiences that first year really made me go like, yeah, I'm just not enjoying this. And so it was pretty clear. Like I just needed to throw all my eggs in a different basket. And I interned and tried to see if like administration would have been part of something that I wanted to do. And I liked pieces of that and would still do pieces of that, mostly like in the literary side or new work, working on scripts.
Right.
But really it was always like, yeah, I have to be in the room. And I've been doing this like stuff with movement and just calling it like physical theater, but it was really just inspired by Bob's class. And
Mm-hmm.
so it seemed like something that I'd already been really in love with. And I just was finally opening the door and being like, oh, what can this all contain?
So do you feel departed from acting now? Is it something that you've written off, or because to me, I've talked so much on the show with people who take big breaks from different things that they practice doing, and I think one of the conclusions we've kind of come to, and the people I've talked to, is why write anything off forever? Like, it just what use is it to you to say, I learned this skill set, I know how to do this thing, and I'm never going to do it again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, first, that seems
Yeah.
counter. But at the same time,
Yeah.
sometimes it helps us, and this is what I'm getting to with you, which is like sometimes it helps us to narrow our focus and say, sure, there's different things, but for right now, this is what I'm really interested in. This is what I really care about. This is the kind of shit I really want to make happen. How is that negotiation for you?
You hit the nail on the fucking head. I mean, like it is something that if someone comes to me someday and says, "I really want you to try to play this part," and I am really interested, I'd be like, "Okay, maybe." Like,
Dude, that's how I
maybe.
feel. Like, as an actor, that's how I feel, 100%.
Yeah, right circumstances, right place, right time. Okay,
For
sure, it'd be
sure.
fun. Like it would be an enjoyable experience. But I am so much more passionate and excited and interested in what I'm actually doing today that to pursue that to pursue anything besides that in a professional sense just
Right.
kind of feels like a waste of time.
Yeah, I hear you. So you're working on this new thing with Emma and everybody bringing this thing back to life, but you got another project that just opened up and people are pretty happy about it. Why don't you tell me about that, bro? How'd that come about, and what's that journey been like for you? Tell me about Emoji.
Yeah, man, it's been wild. It's really been it's been about 2 years with the show for me,
Wow.
and I so it's a bit of a topsy-turvy marriage, I guess, with me in this show. But I was an intern when I was trying to figure out what I was doing. I was an intern for the New York Musical Festival, and I did literary and programming for them. And so that was kind of where I was reading a lot of scripts. I was doing evaluations, managing their submissions portal and stuff. And I that was the part of it that, like I said, I loved. I loved just like reading and going to industry readings and stuff like that. And so one of the industry readings was Emojiland. I thought the music was genius. I thought, it's emojis. Everyone knows emojis. Like Androids have emojis, iPhones have emojis. Everyone's got an emoji in their life in some
Sure.
way. And so it's super universal, super accessible to all ages and groups of people. And the story really had I thought, a good heart, but needed work. But the musical bones were there. Like the music has always been super strong, and lots of the music that I heard at that time is still in the show today. So recommended it to my boss, and she was like, the application's due in a week. If you can get them to apply and put in something good, we'll see how it goes. And I was like, okay, great. And so reached out and was like, I think your stuff is dope. I mean, I was pretty much just like, you guys are awesome. Like, you clearly know how to write good music. So apply to the festival if you can. Let me know how I can help you. And they got selected, and I at that point when they got selected wasn't an intern there anymore, so I was free to just kind of throw an ask into the wind and see if I would get anything back, and asked
Right.
if they needed an assistant director. And so they were like, sure, well, you can talk with our director and see if he would want to have you. And I was like, done. And the rest is kind of history since then.
Well, I want to get to the reception that it's had, which has been really positive. But before that, I want to make a point that I think is very interesting. Of, when we leave, well, let me be more specific. When we leave school, specifically a school like ours, a conservatory, you have these aspirations, whatever they may be. Maybe it's theater, maybe it's film, maybe it's television, maybe it's live events, whatever it is you want to do. But in your head, at least for me, it's like you're like, there's got to be gatekeepers out there who are like big wig exec guys and gals who are like deciding who gets to work. And you got to please those people, or good luck. Go make your own fucking thing and see if anyone comes. And what I love about this story is here is this show that got made and people like it, and a fucking intern found it. and made a point of, and not to belittle you. I mean, of course,
No,
you're bringing a very specific mentality, and I think you're qualified to do that. I really do. I'm not kissing ass, but in the hierarchy of how it works, it kind of shattered some preconceptions I had before, and I hope anybody might have, of like, you never know who's going to be the one who's going to review your submission or who's going to find your show at that back-ass theater that you thought nobody came to and go to their boss and be like, I stand to gain nothing other than maybe being the one who was right historically. But, man, this is fucking good, and I think you should know.
And it's so funny because it's as simple and silly sounding as that is. Like, I was a fucking intern, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really have any place to be like, this might be good.
Yeah, you
But,
didn't
like,
even know why you were doing it. You know what I mean? You were like, I'm going to be an intern to try to discover what the next step is for me and along that path.
yes, exactly. And it was so funny because like throughout that whole time, it was so formative to me, even just receiving that one little bit of validation that they were going to
Right.
apply. I mean, I was like, oh, wait, you're even just going to put in an application? Like, that's my whole job is applications at this place. Like, that's a thumbs up for me alone. I was just happy that that had happened. I sort of felt like, well, at least I did my job. Like,
Yeah,
at least
100%.
I helped in some way. And yeah, you never know, though. You never know.
So let me ask you then about the show now that it's opened. What has been the response? What are people feeling about this? You hear, there was what was it? There was an emoji movie a little while ago that came out. I don't think it did super great. So you hear that kind of thing and you're like, is it gimmicky? What's the idea here? Are you just picking a cultural thing that we all hear and we're like, I know what that is. Let's make a show about it. I doubt that it would get to where it is with just that in the chamber. And I also trust your judgment enough to think that you weren't like, this sounds like a commercial piece of, make some money. So where's the value in this show, man? What are people loving about it? What do you love about it as you've watched it grow? Like, what makes this show special to you?
Yeah, well, so, I mean, I guess the first thing back when was always the music. I think that's one of the big foundations of this show is it really is an original musical. And I think just for our industry, that's always refreshing. Like, and it's also a new musical that isn't like some of the other recent new musicals where it relies on 4 or 5 really strong melodies or choruses, and then it will repeat those and change those, and that's beautiful in its own way. I love shows like that a
Right.
lot. This one is different because every song is unique. There's rarely a melody that's reprised unless it's super purposeful and
Okay.
intentional. So that's a big part of it for me, just in the foundation and the bones of this thing. But the story is really about don't judge a book by its cover. And I think everyone's had some kind of don't judge a book by its cover moment in their life where they've gone, whoa, wait a second, you're reading into me in the completely wrong way. You don't get it wrong. Like you may think I look like that, but I'm really over here doing this other thing. And that's what the whole story is about. Every character is taken for face value, ironically enough, and then
I see what you
actually
did there. I see what you did.
actually has actually has a deeper, more like human want and need that everyone in or at least one person in one seat has probably gone through.
It's an interesting double-edged sword in that regard, and I think this is true for Bent as well, and any piece of work that ventures to tackle something in our nature that maybe is not the best, that we're like, hey, come on, you shitheads. Like, let's behave ourselves and be kind to each other and stuff. It's like that general morality that kind of fits into so many pieces of art, even Disney movies, hammer you over the head with it, like be a good guy and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Despite that, and the example we were talking about the other day is A Christmas Carol, right? How many versions of A Christmas Carol has there been? And yet, there are still so many greedy fuckers out there who did not learn the lesson from the fucking movie. And it's like, the double-edged sword, right, is that, like, that sucks because it's like, aren't we trying to teach people these lessons in a way that they'll walk away with it and behave themselves a little better towards us and each other? But then again, it's like, if it worked we wouldn't have gotten the Michael Caine one with the Muppets. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like you would have no story in Emoji Land if we all got the like book by its cover thing. Yeah, we all got that. Nobody does that. What are you talking about? Like if that lesson in another movie or show had sunk in, there would be no value in you trying to tell it through this story. Unfortunately, we don't seem to learn the lessons, so we get to keep making the lesson stories. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's so true because the writers and the team of Emoji Land have talked long and hard about how this is essentially a good opportunity to hold a mirror to ourselves right now and be like, yo, this is what we've got going on still.
Yeah.
Like we're still going through these things, but like and they take it one step further. They're really relevant too. There's a whole political thing. I mean, you see the Trump regime in this show very clearly, and how we're relating to it, how we want people to fight against it. Usually,
Right.
I would say. So it's really been interesting because of that, because it tackles a lot of those universal things, and then there's those nuggets where you're like, wait a second, is that last year? Is that a reference to? Oh,
Right.
okay. You're like a little like, oh, that's sneaky. Like if you pay attention, there's some good stuff in there if you're willing to put the puzzle together on your own a little bit.
That's awesome, man. What has it been like trying to do both these shows at the same time? I mean, you've got this huge responsibility over in Emoji Land. Are you taking notes and stuff like that at this point? Like, is that the role you're kind of playing at this point in production?
Yeah, yeah. So being the associate, I just roll in like once a week now. Now that we're open,
Oh, okay.
helps them with
Check up.
their yep. Do the little note check in, and then make sure everything's tip top shape, and then helped with B-roll the other day, and I'll rehearse our understudies and swings in now that they're contracted, so that'll be fun. But yeah, yeah, just maintaining, making sure the ship's still afloat. But it's been really fun actually, sort of now getting to fully dive into Bent while Emoji Land is sailing through shows. It's
Right.
it's been it's been funny. I was really reflecting on it yesterday and today about like these could not on the surface be more different stories, but yet they are both so humanitarian,
Right.
ironic enough with each, and it it's really been kind of a funny little theme of my past couple of months, and so I've been approaching Bent, sorry, excuse me. I feel like a little bit from the Emoji Land sentiment, but a much different side of the story. Obviously, a little bit of a different feeling, and obviously, kind of the darker side of this human experience thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you're right in the content being so different, and one of them is a musical and one of them is a Holocaust play. So, just in those simple words, you're like, I have different things going on in my brain at the same time. But you're right, and I love that, and it goes back to my point of like almost all of our stories. It's not about beating the audience over the head with like, you must behave this way, but there is certainly something in like, do you see how we can be not great? You know what I mean? Like, and maybe if you were great, it would be better. Like, or at least you could strive to try to be great at like the very least. And that's
Yep.
at the core of so many of our stories, which is like just learning from other people's mistakes. That is so much of narrative, especially in like the hero cycle, that kind of story. We're following, one character through all of these different circumstances and watching people shit on him, and maybe he shits on other people, and you're like, maybe we should just stop doing this. And to sit outside of it, especially in a live space where you're, if you're engaging in any empathy, you're like, oh fuck, he's really hurting, like right there.
Yeah.
Not like in a movie where it's like making me sad. I'm like, there's a fucking guy crying over there and it is affecting me, or there is a character, who looks like it's the single greatest day of their whole life. And I don't even remember the last time I felt that way. And to see them really deal with it, like, that's the kind of shit that makes me miss the theater, bro. I'm glad you're doing this stuff.
Oh man. Well, I am too. You hit the nail on the head again, man. Like that's exactly been it. And it's funny because it's like Holocaust is bad, man. That's an easy mirror to hold up and be like, that's
Right.
not good.
Right.
Like, but it's it. it's still the same thing, the same themes between the two. Even though emojis are in a technical age on our phone, it's like these two shows are sending such beautifully simple yet similar messages of like we can shape up and in small ways and really big ones too.
Were you
So,
involved in
but
any way in Emoji Land with the movement stuff or transitional things? Like, what was your role in the rehearsal process of that show?
yeah, it was funny. I really was a jack of all trades during the rehearsals. So, I mean, anything from sitting there taking my own notes, taking the director's notes, working with stage management, and making sure that we're being precise in everything that we do, so it's good for the actors. I helped with, a little bit of the dramaturgy occasionally on scenes. My boss would just be like, "Look at this scene. Tell me if we can find something in this." You know what I mean? He'd just be like, "Go sit over there and look at this thing that we're all trying to work on right now." And I'm like, "Okay, great." Like, so I mean, really everything. But yeah, I mean, not a ton of the movement since it's such a like strong choreographic
Right, of
musical.
course.
It's yeah, the choreography team and with Kenny and Dana, his assistant or associate, excuse me, they're
All over
so
that.
good. They're so all over it. Yeah, yeah. So I really actually loved getting to watch them. I felt like I gained so much just seeing them come from a really true like Broadway dance sense,
Right.
and so I mean the like cleanliness, the precision of all the things that they do. It's so appealing just because it is so kind of polished and clean. And so, there's a little bit of that I'm bringing to Bent already, which has kind of been fun. I mean, we just worked on the drag number with Greta, played by Cal, of course. And already I was like, oh, I'm gonna steal from Kenny. I'm already gonna steal from these
Yeah,
guys. Like,
100%. Dude, and that's, one of the things that's interesting to me in my musical background. First of all, I love the way you describe your tasks and responsibilities on the show. It sounds so much like the third year of Gerald's directing program. Like all the stuff that you did was like what the third year directors would do when we were on the shows. So it's like you're still getting to essentially learn that same path, even though you didn't choose to do that particular program. Piece of shit. And so I love that. That's a really cool thing. And then the other element that is so interesting to me is that you pick up style and you pick up your taste from watching other people make in front of you, especially as a producer, as a director. And like, dude, working on Dancing with the Stars has totally changed the way I think about like blocking, choreography. You know, I've directed musicals before, but man, do I feel ready to do something like that, now, because I'm like, I'm stealing all their shit. Like, I'm
dude,
definitely gonna be like, this is amazing. Like, you guys are the best in the world, and there's only so many ways to do a fucking left turn, man. So I'm gonna find the one I liked best.
and steal it and
Yeah,
just steal it all. I was gonna say, I'm sure you are around some of the most incredible like movers, people who are like able to do things with their bodies that you're like, that's like not that's like superhuman shit. Like
yeah,
that must be so cool, dude. Like just
it's
to
pretty
sit
fun.
around and be able to be like, I'm making a story about you for TV. Like
Well, I tell you what, buddy, and I think I already offered it, but I'm going to offer it again now that I'm looking you in your beautiful eyes. If you want to come to LA when we're in season and you and Beth want to come see the show, you let me know. It's a blast.
oh, I would love to. Absolutely.
Just hit me up, dude.
Absolutely. You're in Austin right now, though, right? Are you in
Yeah, right
Texas
now I'm
still?
in Austin. I'll be back in LA. I'm not sure exactly when, but definitely for the fall, because if I, get asked back to that show, I'm going to go. It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I'll be there in the fall at some point, I bet. If that's my thing though. If whenever I am in Los Angeles, it is too comfortable.
Right,
That's the biggest problem. I am way too comfortable. I was raised in the Twin Cities. I was
right.
used to being cold and being like, get up.
Yeah,
Like, like I know if I don't have that, it's just automatic vacation. Like I can't turn that dial back for whatever reason. It's so funny, man. Like I kick so hard into relaxation. And don't get
right.
me wrong, that's so necessary and I love it, but Oh, I can't be productive to save my life.
It's so weird, right? Because I feel like when I was growing up, I was overweight, and so I never got cold because I was fat, and that's part of it, by the way. Anyone who's like overweight, who's like, I don't know why, just never really get cold. I'm like, I'll tell you exactly the fuck why, and I know that it's true because it all changed when I became not a great big fat person, and I was like, oh my god, this is uncomfortable. Like I can't wear shorts. This is terrible. Oh, it's like I have like a normal experience now. Okay, got it. But now that I'm a skinny little bitch, LA is all I can handle, dude. It drops
That's
below
right.
40, and I'm like, this is unaccept. This is like we might as well be on the fucking moon. You can't live like this. This is crazy.
You're like, "Well, I can't wear my jogger shorts today. I don't get
Yeah,
it."
exactly. And you're like, oh, St. Paul. I'm like, man, they should just close that whole state off, man, for the whole 3 or 4 months. Just doesn't seem fit
Dude,
for here. It's just like the Sahara. Like no one lives there. Why would they live there?
you'd only get maybe 6 good months at that point.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. You cross over, Ohio, and it's straight
Like,
down.
just quarantine it.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me, dude. This was a blast. I miss you.
Thank you,
Happy
man.
you're doing this, and congrats on both productions. Two awesome plays to be involved in, and keep crushing it, homie.
Thanks, man. It was great talking to you, and hope everyone comes sees Ben.
Oh man, they're gonna see it. They're gonna love it.
I love it. I love it. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, later, homie.